let's use that color today. Let's say that there's an earthquake that happened somewhere, and we know that because here in New York City, which is right there, that's New York City, we have a seismic station, and suddenly the needle starts moving, and we know, we're like, oh, there's an earthquake somewhere. Hopefully everyone's okay. But very exciting for a seismologist, because now they can start analyzing the data, right? So they use their seismic data, they get their P and their S waves, and they analyze that, and they figure out, ooh, this earthquake was 1,000 miles away. Okay, great. So they're like, okay, so it's 1,000 miles away. But what they don't know is like, is it 1,000 miles that way? Or is it 1,000 miles that way? Or that way, or that way, or that way? Like, they don't know what direction the earthquake was in. Like, they have no idea. All they know is that it's 1,000 miles away from New York City based on that seismic data. And you might think to yourself, well, that's dumb. Why don't they make a better system? They can like tell them where it is. It just doesn't exist. Like right now, we just don't have that technology. So what they do is they say, okay, I know that it's 1,000 miles away from New York City. What if I draw a circle that has a radius of that distance? And now I know that the earthquake happened somewhere on that circle, right? Which is great, I guess, but still not that helpful, right? Because you could be like, well, I know the earthquake took place like, I don't know, somewhere out in Arkansas, but that's still a lot of places along Arkansas, right? I need to pinpoint it. Like, that's the job of a seismologist, to let everyone know, here's exactly where that earthquake took place, so that other people can go to that location and start studying it. Okay, so what do they do next? Well, this is where they got to get on the phone. They get on the phone, they go bling, 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 bling. I sound like an old-timey person, don't I? And they say, North Dakota, did you guys get those seismic waves at your seismic station? And they say, yeah, we did. And they say, well, how far away was the earthquake from you? And they say, ooh, it was only 700 miles. So here's North Dakota. They're up there and they're like, oh, okay. So now people in North Dakota, and they're like 700 miles away, let's draw the circle around North Dakota and figure out how far away it was from North Dakota. Aha. Now we know that the earthquake had to be somewhere on this circle, 700 miles away from North Dakota, and it had to be on this circle here, 1,000 miles away from New York City. So either that earthquake took place right here where they cross, or right here where they cross. Well, how are they going to figure out which one it is? Did you figure it out yet? You got to call another station. So let's say they call somebody else up. They call somebody in Denver, Colorado. Call them up. They say, oh, yep, we got those seismic waves. They're 1,100 miles away. Draw the circle. And now we know that the earthquake had to have taken place where all of those circles intersect. So where do all three circles intersect? If you guessed here, you were correct. That is the location of the earthquake epicenter. That's where that earthquake took place. But you can't do it with just one seismic station. You've got to have all three, at least three. You can have more than 3 seismic stations. It would just like, they would all intersect at that one location, but you have to have at least 3. If you have only one station, all that tells you is that that earthquake had to take place somewhere on the circle at that distance away from the epicenter. That doesn't tell you anything. And sure, you could use 2 stations, but now you've only narrowed it down to 2 locations where those 2 circles intersect. You gotta have 3 stations so that you can figure out where all 3 circles intersect to pinpoint it. It's called triangulation. And it's something that your phones use every second of the day to tell you where you're at. It locks onto 3 different satellites. And that satellite knows that you're a certain distance away, and that satellite knows you're a certain distance away, and that satellite knows you're a certain distance away. It draws 3 circles and pinpoints you exactly the way this works as well. Pretty cool, huh?